Welcome to the Week in Sports Cars. We have a lovely catching up episode. Friend by the name of Parker Kligerman. He drives race cars. He speaks into microphones. He has a podcast. And what else? I used to admire you, as I tell you frequently, back when you were a pup trying to make your way up the junior open wheel ladder. There was a series here, the name of which I always forget, of Formula Renault cars trying to make their way up. You trying to crack into that road to Indy. Didn't exactly pan out in the way that you had hoped, but you did stand out as a pretty serious star. So we're going to dive into all that, this new opportunity for you. Really cool one, the Rolex 24 at Daytona with a team that I have a lot of love for. Let me first, Parker, just say thank you as always to our great partners at the Justice Brothers, makers of truly, genuinely fine automotive chemicals and lubricants. The great championship in Canada. You might consider partaking in the Sports Car Championship Canada, that being presented by Michelin, and also TorontoMotorsports.com. Memorabilia, fun stuff and swag at the racetrack. I'm telling you, man, there's no better place to go at an IMSA event than TorontoMotorsports.com. So, Parker, tell me about this evolution for you career-wise, because seeing photos of you climbing out all sweaty and sexy from some form of NASCAR-type vehicle, and then putting on a headset with antennas peeking out everywhere and speaking into microphones, I think that's the person folks have known for a good while. You've had a little bit of a life career evolution there, though. And we'll get into the Rolex 24 part in a moment, but tell us about where you're at career-wise, what you're doing now here in 2025, and where you're hoping to go forward.
Yeah, bud, thanks for having me on, first of all. That was a very flattering intro, so I do appreciate it. Whenever I hear those intros, I'm like, who are they talking about? Oh, wait, that's me. That's nice. I forget some of the things we've done in this whole deal. But yeah, you said it right. When I got into this, not many people know, I wanted to go to F1. That was my first love in racing. And unfortunately, after that Formula Renault season, which I raced against Alexander Rossi and had a lot of fun.
Never heard of him.
I did not have
that guy. Yeah, went nowhere. I think
he did a couple things. He won a pretty big race in Indy. It has a dirt track inside of it, actually, that track. But that I didn't have the funding of a small country to get across the pond. So at the time, NASCAR was booming, and it was about the lifeline I needed to keep going. So went the open wheel, went to midgets, and then got incredibly lucky to get an opportunity to become a Penske development driver. And that sort of skyrocketed me into the NASCAR ranks. And then, made it all the way to Cup, had the team fold on me, got into TV a little bit, did both for 8 or 9 years, and then got to go full-time racing again in the Xfinity Series the last 2 years with Big Machine Racing. We were a young team that we got their first and second playoff berths in Xfinity and did everything but win a race. Actually, we probably won one for about 30 seconds for the fans out there that watched the Roval last year.
Yeah.
But, we kind of balanced the broadcast side and the driving side. And then about midway through this year, there was, there's a lot of new TV partners coming in NASCAR, and some that started to have, reach out and have discussions with. And it's not out there yet, but it will be maybe by the time this comes out, or maybe a little bit after, I don't know. But, got some pretty big opportunities in the broadcast side that were hard to ignore. And so, I made the announcement that I've no longer pursuing full-time racing. And so now, the broadcast stuff beckons. I'll still jump in a race car here and there, as you mentioned. Going to be doing the Rolex 24, which has been a bucket list item for me. I do have to thank Scott Borchetta, who owns Big Machine Racing and Big Machine Spike Coors, that, for the opportunity to go do this. And, I'll still probably hop in a truck here and there a little bit. I don't know how much, really, to be honest, because my TV schedule is really taking over. But yeah, it's been an evolution. I think for those that don't know me, all you need to know is that I love motorsports, and that means all motorsports. And since, I said F1 was my first love, I still watch NASCAR, but I watched everything. And when I mean consumed everything, like you name it, if it was on Speed Visions or which became Speed Channel, and then eventually when the internet started to have racing videos and I found torrents, I was watching everything from British touring cars to any Australian supercars to Macau GP to, all the sports car endurance races around the world. I have watched the 24 Hours of Le Mans twice in its entirety from my bedroom when I was younger. So I've done that the Rolex as well. So I'm probably the biggest. I would say at least I'm in the top 0.1% of motorsport fans in the world, and I've been lucky to make it my career and my sole focus for all these years. And driving obviously came first, but now kind of transitioning to these other roles. And I just feel very fortunate that I've been able to be connected to it in different capacities for as long as I have, and hopefully I always say for as long as I'm on this earth, I want to be connected to motorsports in some capacity.
Amen. First of all, you get massive points for the BitTorrent reference. And for those who have no clue what that is, because it's an old-timey thing, which is sad to think because it used to be the thing that dominated our lives. Before you could readily get your Australian supercars or this or whatever international racing on your phone, on your whatever, with great ease, just a click of an app, there was a file sharing thing happening using torrents, BitTorrents, where folks would upload a race they recorded through whatever means, probably a VCR, maybe early days of a DVR. And that's something where folks could go and download that and indeed watch parts, full races, whatever it might be. And I know I have fun, Parker, whenever I plug in an old external hard drive. If I'm looking for something, inevitably there's going to be a, quote, BitTorrent folder. And I'll open that up and go, oh, no way. The 1999 whichever race at Oberschleiben or Schlupperschlappen or whatever it was that I couldn't get on my own. So love that reference.
I know exactly the track.
Yeah, love that reference. And then also Scott Borchetta, one of the great, he's young, but he's kind of the Santa Claus of motor racing for so many different things, whether it's to the benefit of you as a driver with sponsorship from his various companies to sponsoring and promoting motor racing events. He's backing and directly producing a documentary on one of my heroes, the late Dan Gurney, and is behind another motor racing documentary that I happen to be a part of. But yeah, you mentioned Scott Borchetta, and it's like, that's Santa Claus. He just makes so many things possible for so many people. So tell me about the Rolex 24 part, knowing that the majority of folks who know you, fans and whatnot, who've seen you, think of you as guy who likes to go around in circles a bunch. As you mentioned, your foundation in the sport, road racing, open wheel, this has been the base that you've had to work from, obviously excelled whenever in name the various series within NASCAR or similar that's hit a road course. You've always popped right to the front. But tell me about the Rolex 24, because that's hardcore road racing. And also, man, I love the fact you're like, I decided I'm no longer going to do full-time racing. I'm going to step away from that and focus on broadcasting. So what am I going to do as my first race back after this transition? A 24 freaking hour race. You got teammates. You're not doing all 24 yourself, but tell me about this opportunity, man, with a great team run by an old friend of mine, Shane, who was mechanics with, 30, 40 years ago.
Well, I didn't say I was smart or intelligent in that whole rap. So I of course, first sports car race, it's like, well, what's the biggest one? That's Rolex. All right, let's do that. I've wanted to do this race since I was 16 years old. And every single year I have tried and I've been close. And then, life would get in the way, or I'd have to focus on a NASCAR deal we were trying to put together, which was my primary, job and primary income and that sort of thing. And I just couldn't seem to break through. And then there was a short period of time where I was a gold license, which was like a death sentence if you've never driven one, which we can get into that whole thing. And then eventually was able to get a silver, and finally all the stars aligned. And one of the big stars was that when I got the opportunity at Big Machine Racing back at the end of 2022, I met Scott for the first time. and realized, learned about his passion for motorsports, as you mentioned. And I realized that we both had the same passion, which was we loved everything from IndyCar to sports cars to NASCAR.
I mean, he races in
And
Trans Am. He was at Long Beach
yeah.
last year, which had
Yep.
which had vintage Indy cars as one of the support races. He's out there tearing around in Mario Andretti's 1985 Long Beach winning Indy car. Like, this isn't just like, hey, music mogul guy who likes to share money to help make things happen. Guy's a hardcore racer too, so that also makes things a little bit easier.
Big time. And you mentioned his Indy cars. He has some of the late kart, late 90s era ones, which I think are some of the coolest race car in the world. And I've seen those and they're just amazing. But yeah, he has some of the 70s and 80s versions of Indy cars. He has quite a collection, which is amazing. And he's on the board for the Indianapolis North Speedway Museum. So you mentioned he's all about motorsports. And so when he and I would chat, one of the things that came up was, hey, what about the Rolex 24? And this is when he was driving before he had that horrific accident in Trans Am at Road Atlanta in March of 23. I think some of the plan was like, hey, eventually I want to do that race. Let's do it together. Unfortunately, obviously, had that horrible wreck and has taken a break from driving. But when we kind of came to the conclusion that I was going to step back from full-time racing, we had a discussion of like, is there fun stuff we could do together still? Because, I'll call him a friend for life. And he gave me such a big opportunity to come back and to really end my full-time driving career in a way I could be proud of. Right. And so we just sort of looked at each other and said, what about the Rolex 24? You think we could do it? I was like, I think we could. And through help of a lot of great people, Bob Perona, who was my driver coach and old manager, and Misha Goikberg, who he driver coaches now and has been working with for a couple of years. We're over at Forte Racing with Shane, and they've been there the last 2 years, I believe. And they just, as always, as you get late in the year, they're trying to assemble the driver lineup for these big races where you need 4 drivers. And it's sort of all aligned that they had the room and we had the means to make it happen. And so it all came together. And I got in the car for the first time at the end of December. We did a 2-day test out at Daytona. And I won't lie, it was the most fun 2 days I've had in a race car in a very, very long time. And so, I know that sounds weird. Well, because it's not the fastest car I've ever driven, right? But it's just so unique. It's so
we should also
advanced.
Tell folks you're in a Lamborghini freaking Huracan GT3.
Yes,
V10
baby. It's
flappy paddles on the steering wheel, like really high tech car. Looks amazing. Baby bull, right? Italian Lamborghini.
Yep.
Like, hey, Parker, how was it in whichever bodied NASCAR thing? That was cool. Hey, how about stepping into a freaking supercar with all the tech, all the speed, slicks on it, etc., etc. That had to be a bit of a, I've driven many things. This is unlike any of them experience for you.
It was. And, I really have to give Bob Perona a big shout out in terms of getting me up to speed before that test, and Misha and Mario Farnbacher, who's the other pro driver on the team, because they gave me just great advice. And Bob really, he knows what I've done in stock cars and knows my history so well. And so he was like, here's what you're going to feel. Here's what you need to look out for. Here's what you need to focus on. Right. And you mentioned the V10 screaming is epic. It's, I said it's not the fastest race car in terms of speed, but it's an incredibly capable race car under the brakes with the ABS that it has and all the technology that's inside of it. And so it's a bit like drinking through a fire hose in terms of all the technology, but driving wise, it's still just a car with 4 tires and a steering wheel. So you have the basics there. And I believe that across any form of motorsport is if you got 4 wheels and a steering wheel, and some pedals, you at least know the basics. So I was actually able to get up to speed really quickly, which I think I surprised myself a little bit. But I had a blast the whole time. And, the thing about endurance racing is, it's not the fastest car that normally wins these. It's the one that survives and still has the speed at the end. And, when I look at we just had our team meeting here an hour ago, our pre-event meeting before the Roar. And there's just so many things I'm consuming in terms of how you operate these cars, all the things we need to know as drivers in terms of events of, if something happens or goes wrong. There's all the procedural stuff of IMSA versus what I've done in NASCAR for the last 15 years. And so there's a lot to consume, but I think the thing that's made it easy is I'm just having so much fun. And I can't wait to get into this upcoming couple weekends with the Roar and the race and just experience it all. And I was in our meeting. I just sat there and I was like, this is so awesome. Like, I can't believe this is happening. So it's a dream come true for me, a massive dream. I've always wanted to get into this form of racing. And I always assumed, I had a joke with many drivers in NASCAR is that every pro driver's goal should be to get rich and go sports car racing. And I missed my point on that was that you could become the gentleman driver basically and just have some fun. I kind of missed that portion, but I'm still getting to go do it. And I could not be more excited. And it's just, for all the sports car fans out there, just know like the different disciplines of motorsport obviously are different, but that's the great thing about motorsports. It comes in so many shapes, forms, sizes, smells, sounds, you name it. And this form, though, is one of probably the most dynamic out there because of all the different manufacturers, the classes, the way, how long the races are and that sort of thing. And so it's just like it takes the best of everything and puts it into one big pizza pie, right? That's this big race with 61 cars and over 24 hours and drivers from all over different motorsports. And it's just such a cool event. So I think it's one of the top 5 motorsport events in the world. And, to me, it's kind of the kickoff of motorsports in America, and it's a big party that happens to be a race. And so I can't wait.
You've partnered with a great team in Forte Racing, smaller in terms of hasn't been around for a long time, isn't super well known like some of the other Goliaths of GT racing in particular, but great team. Like I said, run by my old friend Shane Seneveratna. He's someone who's done big things in motor racing and open wheel, Indy Lights back in the day, championships and whatnot. Led Simona Di Silvestro during her super breakout time in Formula Atlantic, then went with her into IndyCar. Shane's someone who's run some really, really strong teams, rarely the biggest. So bit of a specialty, I guess I should say, and the ability to get a lot out of a team that maybe isn't dressed with trillions of dollars to do what they do, but with a great team. Why don't we close on this, Parker?
Yeah.
So pretty common. Head into January, go into the Rolex 24. Oh, there's a NASCAR driver on the entry list. Well, there might be 2. In years past, 2000s, 2010s in particular, often very much a fish out of water scenario. NASCAR, road racing, wasn't much of a thing for a long time. That's certainly changed in recent years, which is awesome, but it'd be a bit of a, oh, cool, that person we know from NASCAR is here. We don't expect them to do anything in the car that really helps the team in any way, shape, or form, but it's cool to have this high-profile NASCAR driver or 2 here. Brother, we can't say that. You're there. You have been a badass. Got Shane, another Shane, that being in same GT world, Shane Van Gisbergen coming over, and I know he's new to NASCAR, but obviously just spent a year learning a ton. Going to have him there, which I think is a really big deal. We got some kid named Austin Cindric, who I seem to recall might have won a pretty important race at Daytona. Not 24 hours worth, but about 500 miles worth. We've got some real talent coming in here from NASCAR. Tell me about that side, because instead of like the curiosity and more personality based, oh, big name, cool, but you're going to suck. We got some real NASCAR talent, yourself included, where it's like, no, we expect you to get up on the wheel and feed some fenders and go hardcore. Tell me about that side, a different year for NASCAR at the Rolex 24 than we usually have.
Yeah, you also have Connor Zilic, who won it last year, right? So, and he's a just incredible.
Just starting out. He's I think he's 7 years old, if I remember correctly.
Man, for all the sports car fans that don't watch NASCAR, what he did at Watkins Glen, the Xfinity Series this year, his first race, he won it. He was miles above all of us. It was incredible. That kid he's got a very bright future. So yeah, to your point, I think this is really cool. And I just love to see the crossover of drivers that come over, to do this sort of thing. And obviously Austin has a lot of experience in GT. Shane obviously has a lot of experience. Connor's done and won endurance races and the prototypes last couple of years. I think it's more to that what I said before, which is like the Rolex 24 to me, and what it's become is a insanely competitive, massive party that kicks off the motorsports season in America. And because of that, you get drivers from all over, and it's great to see NASCAR drivers, which you mentioned historically didn't do it, but now have the chance because they're not just specialized stock car drivers. They're drivers with vast, diverse backgrounds that can jump in these cars and be an asset, not just, to your point, a marketing asset. And, for me, I look at our lineup, we've got an absolutely stout lineup. And part of like my role is not to just be, hey, that's fun, go do your minimum drive time and get out. It's sort of a, hey, like, you're here to add to the speed and to make sure you're a pro level right off the bat. And, we're all going to get a Rolex. So it's not just run around and look pretty. It's like, no, this is the primary job right now. Right. And I love that. That's the kind of experience I wanted. And I'm definitely getting that with Forte. And I just think we have a really stellar lineup. The team is incredibly organized and impressive from the time I spent with them the last month. Michael Harvey, who runs it, he's got a vast background from kart and sports cars, and he's done some insanely big things.
He's so good.
He's so good. He's calm. He's a hell of an operator. I've been so impressed by him. So, and the whole team is it's really cool. And you mentioned the Italian Bull that we're driving. A lot of the crew members are Italian, and some of the engineers who come over from Lamborghini. And I just love that, because when I was younger, that's all I wanted to do was go over to Europe and be exposed to different cultures and to see their passion for motorsports. And I kind of get to do that here. But the one story I'll tell you that I think is so funny is my first test, I noticed this massive machine we had in the hauler, and with tiny little cups. It's an espresso machine. What I noticed was it was running full chat the entire time. And I found out it is the most important machine in any Italian racing situation that could possibly be there. It is like, if that goes down, just stop everything. Nothing else will happen. But I had some. It's incredible coffee. And I've had espressos before, obviously, but I hadn't really experienced that at a racetrack and the importance level of having it. So it's I've loved it though. It's so cool. It's a great group. I was so impressed at the test and everything I've done with them. And I truly believe, I know it's my first one, and I don't know what I don't know, but I look at this group and I'm like, we got a chance at this thing. And, I would want that desperately. To tell you how long I've wanted to do this, I've resisted from ever even looking at having a Rolex in my life, because my main thing was that I wanted to go win one for my first one. So I don't like to speak too much about that, but that's always been my mind. So this starts that journey. Who knows how? Maybe I can get done the first time. Maybe it'll take longer, but I hope we can get done the first time.
Parker Kligerman coming for a timepiece, y'all. I love that. Aim high. I mean, look, you can afford a Timex. Heck with that. We're going for a Rolex, man. Get in there. I also love that you've broken down, you've decoded one of the best secrets, I can say, both in IndyCar paddocks and certainly in IMSA paddocks. Hey, you need a proper, stiff, high-quality infusion of caffeine. Yeah, don't go fart around at whatever team from here or there. Go to the Dallara truck, for example, right, where everybody's Italian. It's a point of pride. Or you go like the Lamborghini factory team, right? Any team that is Italian or has strong Italian manufacturer roots, I swear, Parker, it's in their support contracts that say, like, look, if we're going to come into your trailer and help answer something for you, you are not serving up Maxwell House or some sort of dry or stir-in coffee. You need to have, again, an espresso machine the size of that V10 engine. And that thing is humming perfectly. They got a setup pad for it. As well. I mean, they got telemetry firing off that thing. It's amazing. Dude, so happy for you. Funny. Love that you get to come, not just do a bucket list thing, but not as, oh yeah, I found a thing at some team that's like so far down the paddock, they're freaking in the next county over. You're in a great team. Juan already has history winning big endurance race at Forte. So great team you're with. Certainly one of the underdogs, but love what you got here. Happy for you. And just for any fans coming to Daytona, if you see Parker, say hello. One of the nicest, warmest,
Absolutely.
funniest guys. You probably tell just from the conversation here. He's one of us. So looking forward to seeing you here shortly, brother. And so excited for you. And I guess I will wait and see what we have going on Sunday, January 26th, and whether I see you walk into the media center sporting a Rolex. That's the goal here. So, brother, appreciate you. Thanks for joining in, and we'll speak to you here soon.